Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where I recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today's the 6th of May, 2022. Alright everyone, let's get into it. So I have a special announcement today to make. There is finally some Daily Gwei merch happening. So we have a hoodie and a t-shirt that is basically live right now. You can click the links in the YouTube description below to go purchase one. This has been kind of like in the works for, I guess, like a few months now, getting the designs done, coordinating it all, and I couldn't have done it on my own. I definitely did not. I had two people helping me with this. They're both quite active in the Discord channel. Coffee, as some of you will know, he's quite active in there, and Crypto Wife, who some of you will know from Twitter. She does a lot of really great kind of like art and memes and things like that, and she basically designed both their kind of like t-shirt and the hoodie here. So you can see the hoodie's got kind of like it comes in black. It's got a really great design going on here. If you scroll down, you can see down the arm, it has the Daily Gwei with an ETH logo, and obviously the Daily Gwei logo on the chest here. And then we have the t-shirt, which is kind of like the same kind of like logo on the chest in white, and then on the back it's got Daily Gwei with an ETH logo on it. Now, as I said, you can head to the links in the YouTube description to purchase this if you would like. It comes in sizes from extra small to 3XL, so basically sizes that fit everyone. You also will get the robot token distributed to, as this drop is being done with Meta Factory, and that token basically, I don't know how much it's worth right now, but like that comes from kind of like buying the merch from the Meta Factory shop, not just the Daily Gwei merch, but anything that they kind of like have there. And in typical Daily Gwei fashion, pardon the pun, all of the proceeds that come to me will be going to public goods. So I'll be donating everything that I kind of like get from this to public goods funding. Haven't decided exactly where I'm going to donate it to yet. Like maybe will it be ETH Core devs? Will it be something else? Will it just be one person? Will it be a group of people? I haven't decided yet. But we'll have, I'll decide kind of at a later date there. But yeah, if you want to go purchase one, definitely do so. I mean, I can't wait to personally get mine and wear them on the refuel and everything for you guys. As I said, it's the first time I've done Daily Gwei merch, and again, just a massive thanks to Coffee and Crypto Wife here. Without them, this wouldn't have been possible. So definitely go check this out. Links in the YouTube description below. All right, so Trent Van Epps, my favorite kind of like guy who puts out so much updates around the kind of like the merge. It's hard to keep up with him, and I highlighted his kind of like image yesterday, the path to the merge image. He shared another thing today, the mega merge resource list that was created by Mario Haval, Tim Biker, and Trent there. Now, I don't know if I've kind of like highlighted this before, or maybe I've seen something similar to this, but basically, this is just kind of like all the resources that you are going to need to learn about the merge, keep up with the merge, see what's going on with it, all from kind of like first principles all the way to kind of like current updates today. So if you haven't kind of like, read a lot of this stuff yet, you can kind of like head to these links, read them all. I mean, this will keep you busy for a while. Like, this is probably a few days worth at least of stuff to kind of like go down. And I mean, the funny thing is, every time you go into one of these links and then you kind of like read it, and then you'll be clicking on even more links and going down even more rabbit holes, it's just going to keep going. So if you're going to go start down these rabbit holes and you want to avoid just having like a million Chrome tabs open that you never get to, I would kind of like take out a block of maybe a few hours to learn about this. But at this point, I'm sure a lot of you already know a lot about the merge. I've talked about it for so long now that you guys probably know a lot. But in general, I kind of gloss over the more technical details of it because I feel like it's kind of like hard to get that across on a 30-minute show. So if you're interested in more of that sort of stuff, you can check out the technical specifications and all those sorts of things, which are linked in this resource list. And of course, I'll link this in the YouTube description below. All right, so HOP Protocol finally announced their DAO and token today. And now this has become a bit of a, I guess you could say, drama around how they've done their airdrop here and kind of like everything around that. But I wanted to kind of like focus on kind of like what they announced today, and then I'll go into kind of like the airdrop and the token and all that sort of stuff. So obviously they announced a DAO in a very similar fashion to how Optimism announced it, kind of like with their goals of what they want to do, how kind of like the token fits into things, how it's all going to work under the hood. And they did a Twitter thread kind of like describing this. So you can see, like, you can go read this for yourself if you would like here. And then they kind of like talk about the airdrop. So airdrop details are right here, like who the airdrops actually went to. And I think, if I add this up, it's what? It's like 8% or something like that. Or going, is it 8%? No, I think I'm doing my math right. 5 point. Yeah, I think it's about 8% going from this kind of like airdrop here. And they airdrop to a bunch of different people that use the bridge, that LP'd, that bonded, even early Ethereum users. Now, for those who don't know, much of the HOP team came from Ethereum, which was an Ethereum wallet that was being developed a while ago. I believe it's no longer in development, but yeah, you got some HOP tokens if you were an early Ethereum user. And funny enough, that's where I got my HOP tokens from. I didn't actually meet the minimum bridge transactions here, the dollar amount, and I didn't LP, so I didn't get any tokens from that. But I got it from being an early Ethereum user, which was a nice little thing. Got about 1,000 tokens going to Sassel.eth there. But anyway, I think you should go read kind of like the rest of the details here around how this is all going to work, and you can kind of like see their distribution here outside of the airdrop as well, which I think is actually pretty good, right? Like, I mean, if you look at kind of like where most of it's going, I know some people kind of like brought up, 60% going to the treasury. That's just a meme. It's just going to sit there and do nothing. I'm like, no, I don't think so, guys. Like, I really don't think it's going to sit there and do nothing. And then some people were critical and saying, team and investors get a healthy chunk. And I've spoken about this, I think, on the Refuel recently, where I said that I think the team should get a healthy chunk. They're the ones that are going to be there years after all the speculators are kind of like gone, and they're going to be building the thing and adding the most value. So I have no problem with that. And they only gave like 6.2% to investors, which I think they've only done a seed round. I haven't seen them do any other rounds for investors either, which is pretty cool. All right, so let's focus on a bit of the drama that happened here. The drama mainly focused on people complaining that they didn't reach the minimum of 2 bridge transactions with $1,000 of volume. Now, I guess like a big reason this was done is to kind of like get rid of the Sybil kind of like attacks and get rid of people trying to farm the airdrop. And people are complaining about this because obviously they were trying to farm the airdrop and they're not getting money. And I kind of put out a tweet here as well based on this where I said, quote unquote, this airdrop is unfair, directly translates to, quote unquote, I demand that you give me more money. Airdrops are completely broken at this point and do more harm than good for a project. Everyone complaining about, quote unquote, unfair airdrops is someone who would just dump and move on anyway. Now, I have been through pretty much like all the airdrops that you can be through. I have been a recipient of a lot of these airdrops. I don't farm them myself. I just use the products in my kind of like day-to-day activities, and I manage to kind of like get tokens. And I'm going to be happy to admit this, 90%+ of the airdrops that I have gotten, I have sold and not looked back, right? I haven't even done anything with the project. And that's what most people will do. So why would you reward those people? Like, I don't understand the logic here of kind of like rewarding those people, those mercenaries, those speculators who are literally going to dump the second they get the token. And not only are they going to do that, they're not going to pay any attention to your project anymore, not add any value to it, not even be part of your community. And they may even just kind of like FUD your project because they've sold and they don't care about it anymore. So why are we rewarding those people? Like, this is a thing that I've always had an issue with when it comes to these airdrops, is that people are so entitled. The tokens go to the wrong people. They add no value. And what ends up happening is that the project, the core team, the actual community members have to put up with this and have to actually deal with this. If you go into the HOP Discord channel right now, it is a shit show. Like, it is just a bunch of people complaining that they're not getting free money, and these people would not have done anything for the protocol anyway. And on top of this, not just HOP, but like most products in DeFi and Ethereum today don't have that many users in the grand scheme of things. If we expect these things to have 100 million plus users eventually, most of them don't even have 10,000 real users, like real active users. So why would you give most of the tokens to like less than 10,000 people when you want to onboard 100 million plus people to your product, right? You want to onboard as many people to your product as possible. It's just such a weird thing to me. And that's why I think that airdrops are fundamentally broken at this point. There needs to be a way to do them in such a better way. Token distributions are really hard. I've spoken about this before. But, I don't envy the teams that are trying to kind of like tokenize at this point because you can't please everyone. But I've just become so frustrated and so disillusioned by the amount of people who are just so entitled and think that they're entitled to kind of like free money for absolutely nothing just because there's been lots of those airdrops in the past. And that's fine, right? There's also blame to be put on the teams as well sometimes where, okay, if the teams didn't want this to happen, they could have structured their kind of like airdrop in a different way, or maybe they didn't even need to do a token, or maybe they could have waited to do a token. But at the same time, teams are in a rock and a hard place because they do want to tokenize, they do want to decentralize, but doing an airdrop is one of the hardest things ever because not only are people farming it, but they're expecting it. When something like the Uni airdrop was done, no one was expecting that at the time. Like absolutely no one was expecting that. No one was really even even expecting Uniswap to do a token. I mean, there were some people saying it because they said, oh, Uniswap has to do a token now because SushiSwap has come out and done a token, all that sorts of stuff. But no one expected the Uni airdrop that happened. And that was, at the time, the best airdrop in Ethereum's history, in crypto's history. And it worked really well. But even though that airdrop was so good, it doesn't matter. The Uni token is down like 80-something%. It's in your ENS, DYDX, all the airdrops that people consider to be good airdrops, those tokens are wrecked for a number of different reasons. One is that they started off at a really high market cap, right? So everyone was just like, wow, okay, well, not everyone, but like the smarter people were just like, okay, well, this market cap's really high. And it doesn't really the valuation is not justified by the product. I'm just going to sell my tokens here. And that's what a lot of people did. And then the token just goes down only. Two, there's no fundamental value being driven to a lot of these tokens. Like Uni, for example, there's no fee switch. There's no staking. You can't stake it and kind of like get a share of the fees generated by the Uniswap protocol. It is literally just a governance token right now. Yes, okay, in the future, sometime they may turn on the fee switch, but you don't know when that's going to be. It's an undefined point in the future. So for all intents and purposes, Uni is only worth its governance worth and it's kind of like speculation on its future value via the kind of like fee switch. Same goes for things like ANS and DYDX and stuff like that. But like, I mean, they're what I would consider like tokens that are attached to really, really good projects with amazing product market fit. But then you look at like all the other tokens, like most of the other tokens, I should say, that aren't attached to good products, that are attached to really bad products, ones that don't have product market fit, ones that don't have any traction, and people expect them to maintain billion-dollar valuations. Guys, like, I just think people, like, especially over the last 2 years in this inflationary environment that we've had where everything just went crazy, people have been given this extreme false sense of security where they think that these things should be worth what they were worth, when in reality, they were never really worth that. It was just bull market froth. And them being down 90% is not a surprise to me at all. Like, as I've said to you guys before, like I'm totally honest with you guys about a lot of these things. I've taken a lot of profits from everything else except ETH at this point. I haven't sold any ETH, but from other things because the market just got too stupid. I've been in this market long enough to know when things are getting really heated and really stupid. I've always maintained that I think that ETH is undervalued, and I still maintain that to this day. It doesn't matter it doesn't matter that ETH is kind of like, dumping again today. I don't care. I still think ETH is severely undervalued, and I'm still buying it. But 99% of the shit out there is still overvalued, right? Even after dropping so much. And it gets even more extremely overvalued due to bull markets. Even the most bullish things at the time that everyone is kind of like piling onto is just crap. And it's for a number of reasons. But the number one reason in my eyes is that these things do not have actual product market fit. They do not have traction. They are bad products. And I've maintained this for a long time with you guys. Like, as I said, I'm very honest about this, and this is not a new thing for me to say. And this all folds into people being entitled and being like, I want free money, I want an airdrop, I want this. Or if your airdrop is not designed correctly, then your project's dead. That's not a healthy way to kind of like be in this ecosystem. I just think it's insane. So I really feel sorry for kind of like the HOP team. They've tried to do things right. They've tried to reward people. They've tried to make it so that the people who farmed the airdrop aren't rewarded, and they're still getting bombarded by idiots. But I think HOP will be fine because HOP has a really, really great product. Before they came out with a token, plenty of people are using it, plenty of people are getting value out of it, but they still have a lot of growth ahead of them. Every product in this industry that has product market fit, that will actually succeed, has a ton of growth ahead of it. So why would you reward with like a big airdrop these early speculators who are just going to dump it into the market, rather than keeping most of the tokens in a treasury or for some incentive programs later on, and then slowly giving that out? I think the best kind of like projects in this ecosystem are the ones that are going to reward contributors to the actual project over time, instead of just airdropping to mercenaries. But anyway, that's kind of like my rant on this sort of stuff. There was a lot of discussion about this in the Daily Gwei Discord channel today as well. But I just think that this sort of stuff, like, it goes back to kind of like everyone just cluing into things very, very quickly. And the reason why the Uni airdrop worked is because it was a surprise. But then after that, they've just been downhill from there because everyone expected it. Everyone was farming it. And then the teams have to kind of like play games of sifting through who's farming it and who's trying to cyber the airdrop and who's not and who's genuine users. And it's just extra overhead for them. They're never going to get it completely right because it's very hard to get these things completely right, and they're never going to please everyone. So from that perspective, as I said, I don't envy teams trying to do these sorts of stuff. But I do think eventually we're going to get to like a really nice model, not just on the airdrop front, but on the token distribution front. That'll be great. But But at the end of the day, the only two coins that I consider in crypto to have had good distribution are ETH and BTC. And that is due to a bunch of different variables that are just not possible today. Number one being they were launched into very, very different markets. I mean, obviously Bitcoin was launched into, a nothing market. There was no crypto market. And then ETH was launched into a much, much, much smaller ecosystem. Today, it's completely different. Today, you don't have that luxury. And at the same time, ETH and BTC have both suffered a lot over the years. They've both gone down 90+% over the years, right? They've both had brutal drawdowns and come back from them based on their own merits. And that's what needs to happen for a lot of these tokens. Like, there are good tokens tied to good projects that have product market fit that are still going to go down a lot because of just kind of like the way markets work. But eventually some of them will come back and go on to become true billion-dollar protocols with true valuations rather than these inflated things that we see. And it doesn't matter how well you design your airdrop, it doesn't change the fact that you need to design a good product and you need to actually have natural demand for your token if you want it to accrue value over time. You can't just rely on designing a good distribution. You need the demand side as well. So yeah, anyway, I'm going to end it there because I've gone on about that for a little while now, but I guess like congrats to HOP for getting this out there, getting their DAO out there, getting their token out there. I mean, for anyone from HOP listening to this or any HOP community members, you guys will be fine. These people complaining are just going to like subside eventually and they'll be gone. And then you will just continue building out the great product that you guys have, and I'll keep supporting you like I have, since you guys have been around. All right, so there's some new research about Uniswap v3 liquidity today. This is from Dan Robinson and Gordon Liao, I think his last name is here, which shows that Uniswap v3 actually has deeper liquidity in the ETHUSD and ETH-BTC pairs and some other popular pairs than leading centralized exchanges such as Coinbase and Binance. You can see this nice little chart here that shows this. So basically what this is showing is the depth that you get on Uniswap versus centralized exchanges for where you'll move the price plus or minus 2% in the millions. So in Uniswap v3, to move the ETHUSD price, if I'm reading this correctly, to move it plus or minus 2%, you would need to sell almost $60 million worth of ETH. That's crazy when you think about it, right? And with ETH BTC, you would need to sell around $30 million worth of kind of like ETH there. Now, comparing this to Binance, Coinbase, and Kraken, you would need to sell, I think for Binance and Coinbase is about the same, almost 30 million of ETH, into USD. Kraken, it's a bit less at 24 million, just eyeballing it. And then Gemini, it's much less there. But this is crazy. I mean, the capital efficiency here is nuts. Like I've talked about Uniswap v3 before and how like amazing it is with its capital efficiency. But this is really cool. It's kind of like being quantified in this blog post here. So I mean, highly recommend checking this out. It's a pretty lengthy blog post, but it goes through all the methodology and kind of like all the good stuff here with a bunch of different charts and some math for you guys to have a look at as well. I'll link this in the YouTube description for you to check out. All right, so Galleon has announced today that they're going to be leveling up their brand and kind of like, I guess, changing the design here. So you can see they have a new logo for those of you who've been following this project. They got like a new logo, new design, kind of like new typeface and all that sorts of stuff. And they're going to go in this thread about kind of what they're going to be doing and going kind of like not just on the design side, but also on the product side and how they're going to be evolving. So I guess maybe this isn't a Galleon 2.0, but it's like definitely a major level up for Galleon here. So if you're interested in them, if you're interested in kind of keeping up with what they're doing, they're an asset management methodologist guild. That's what they describe themselves as, by the way. But if you're interested in kind of like keeping up with this, you can join their Discord channel, read through this Twitter thread. Just really, really cool to see them kind of like focusing on their branding here. I actually really like this branding. Like I love it. It's simple, right? It looks professional too. Like it looks like something like a BlackRock would. Like if you're going for like the asset management look, I mean, if you look at the way kind of like BlackRock is, like BlackRock, I'm just Googling it right now because I forgot what it was. It's literally just kind of like a bold typeface name. There's not even a logo there. And then there's, obviously a bunch of other asset managers that kind of like have the same thing, but you want to maintain that kind of like professional look as an asset management protocol, but also kind of like look a bit more, I guess, like fintechy, fresh, which is what Galleon I think has done here. So I really like it personally. But obviously, design is very subjective. So if you don't like it, maybe you should jump into the Discord channel, let them know, kind of give them feedback on this because it is an open kind of community thing, and it's just really cool to see them kind of redesigning it here. All right, so mStable has announced today that ERC-4626 Meta Vaults are coming to the protocol. So the TLDR on these is that mStable Save could not easily be scaled to achieve mStable's growth ambitions, so an open and composable architecture was required to scale, and mStable will leverage this new ERC standard for fully composable vaults, starting with the Meta Vault. So for those of you who have been listening to the Refuel for a while, you will have know what ERC-4626 is. I covered it a little while ago, but it's basically a standard for fully composable vaults. So basically, there are yield-bearing vaults within crypto, a lot of them, right? There's Yearn, mStable, a bunch of others out there, like Convex and stuff like that. But hasn't been like an ERC standard around this yet, and then came along 4626, which aims to standardize this. And this brings with it a bunch of different benefits, like being able to kind of like have kind of like an easy to read kind of like dashboard for built into kind of like the vaults for the kind of like yield that's being generated on things, kind of like the time that yield has been generated there, kind of like the history of that yield, sort of things like that, which obviously lends itself to a lot of really cool features and makes it more composable. So it's cool to see mStable being kind of like a pioneer here. And I mean, disclosure for you guys know that I'm a seed investor and advisor to mStable, but like I think that they're really pushing the boundary here by being like an early adopter of this. So if you want to read more details about this, check this out. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. So Immutable just shared today that they've kind of like the big kind of like companies that they've partnered with. So they've onboarded some of the best marketplaces for world-class NFTs on their kind of like Immutable X platform here. So you can see they've onboarded things like GameStop, obviously OKX, which is kind of like an exchange here, and a bunch of others like Token Trove and NFT Trade. And then you could see those marketplaces are sitting on top of Immutable X, which is obviously a Immutable's kind of like scalable ecosystem here. It's secured by Ethereum L1, zero gas fees, high transactions per second, and carbon neutral as well, which is obviously very important for I guess like the NFT crowd. I think it is actually quite important to be carbon neutral and stuff like that. So cool to see that there. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of like highlight this, and in case people had forgotten that Immutable is still there, still scaling the NFT ecosystem on Ethereum. And maybe, when we have like another big mint like what Yuga Labs did, they can do it on layer 2 instead of layer 1. And look, it's funny. I say that, but at the same time, like I didn't actually mind that Yuga did it on layer 1 because of the fact that I burned a lot of ETH, but for a sustainable kind of like user-facing ecosystem, it needs to be done at layer 2. It can't just be done at layer 1 with gas wars and whales just eating everything up. That doesn't lend itself to a good product at the end of the day. It doesn't matter how much ETH it burns, it just doesn't lend itself to a good product. So yeah, hopefully future NFT mints can be done on more scalable ecosystems. All right, so an update out of Perpetual Protocol today. So multi-collateral is now live on their protocol. So you can now maintain exposure to ETH while trading perpetuals with up to 10 times leverage on-chain at app.perp.com here. So the multi-collateral feature allows traders on Perp V2 to use other tokens than USDC as collateral. First off are ETH and wrapped ETH. They'll be adding other assets in the future such as Frax, Perp, and UST. So if you are a degen and you love trading perpetuals and you're a Perpetual Protocol user, well, this will be music to your ears that you can use other tokens as collateral instead of just USDC. Now, obviously, I always like to kind of like disclose risks here. Perpetual trading is quite risky. Just in general, leverage trading is quite risky. But if you, as Perpetual Protocol said here, GM degens, if you are already a degen, then you should already know this. And if you're kind of like interested in doing this sorts of stuff, then definitely go check it out. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. So Rainbow has released something, the Rainbow mobile wallet has released something for developers today called RainbowKit, which is basically the easiest way to connect a wallet to anything, basically. So for the developers out there, you will understand what this kind of like line means, NPM, to download the kind of like RainbowKit here, and you can kind of like view the docs as well if you're a developer. But basically, it makes the Ethereum login experience pretty straightforward and lets you kind of like integrate Rainbow into your Web3 app essentially with a bunch of different kind of like different modes and different color schemes and stuff like that, and radiuses. I mean, you can see me playing around with it on screen right here. So I just wanted to kind of like highlight this for the developers that watch the show. Obviously, for end users, this is not something that you're going to use, but it's something that you're going to get use out of once it's been implemented on various different platforms. So just wanted to highlight that one there. All right, so this little tweet that I put out last night where I basically said, I hate to break this to many of you, but just because ETH came back from a 94% dump doesn't mean your favorite token will do the same. In fact, 99% of tokens will probably never go back to their all-time high again. You'll either learn this lesson the easy way or the hard way. Now, I mean, I spoke about it just before, ranted about the airdrop stuff just before, and it was related to a lot of this. So I won't focus on the first part of this tweet, but I wanted to focus on how to learn this lesson the easy way and the hard way. So the easy way is basically you learn this lesson by cutting your losses early and moving on. And what that means is that you sell you're losing kind of like investments early, maybe to cash or something like that, and then you reinvest those kind of like that money into ETH or into something else or whatever, something less volatile, right? But learning it the hard way is that you hold that, those tokens down 90, 95, 99% and cry yourself to sleep at night, right? I've done both. I've held things down 95% plus, thinking that they would come back. Not just ETH, and they just never did, right? These things never came back. They just died. Their products died. They had no demand side. And that's just the way it is, right? And then I've learned it the easy way. I've been able to cut my losses early on, or at least sell something into a mania early on without kind of like holding it after kind of like the bull market subsided and the thing just dumps 90+% again. I think I learned more from the hard way than the easy way though, because from the hard way, it takes years for that stuff to kind of like set in. Like I held onto these things for years. Like there was stuff that I had bought in 2017 that I had a lot of faith in back then, but that just didn't materialize. And one of them for I've talked about this before was Aion. Now this was an alternative blockchain. This was not. It was funny like that I invested in alt kind of like L1 at the time with and it was funny because I also invested in Polkadot's ICO at the time, but I wasn't really as convinced of a kind of like Ethereum winning in 2017 as I did become convinced in 2018, 2019. So I bought into Aion, I bought into their vision, and to be fair, they had a pretty cool vision. I think at the time they just executed it like completely wrong, completely poorly, but I held that thing down like 95% plus, thinking that it would come back, thinking that it would be fine. And then I finally sold it at the bottom basically and got, a little bit of ETH out of it, but I sold it at a loss. That taught me so much more than anything else. The number one lesson it taught me is the kind of like very valuable lesson of the fact that doesn't matter how much you believe in a project, doesn't matter how excited you are about a project, doesn't matter how much it makes sense to you or once made sense to you, none of that matters, because at the end of the day, what matters is, does it actually have traction? Does it actually have a community? Doesn't make sense anymore? Has the market moved on from it? Has the ecosystem moved on from it? And it did. And now Aion is completely dead. Like I don't think they're doing anything. I think they pivoted a couple of times, but I haven't seen anything out of them for a long time. So taking all that into account, it was a good lesson for me, and I think people need to learn that lesson for sure. But the easy way, I mean, hurts less, right? Because with the easy way, I took profits, maybe rolled them into ETH, and all was well and good there. Especially during DeFi summer. I mean, I sold a lot of my DeFi tokens back then. I didn't sell the top, but I sold them at nice amounts, and then I rolled it into ETH when ETH was like $400 or something. And then obviously that did quite well from there. But I could only do that at the time because I learned the hard lesson from something like Aion, right? So yeah, I feel like I try to kind of like not tell this to you guys as investment advice, but just kind of like bestow this kind of like wisdom upon you to kind of like get through to you that you'll learn these lessons in your own ways, and don't feel too bad about holding something down because you believe in it and then it just not materializing. Because at the end of the day, you're never going to be able to hit that like 10x, 100x by just focusing on like focusing with a conservative kind of like investment strategy. Because if you invest in like 10 different things and only one of them gives you 100x, well, that makes up for all the 9 losses. Say 9 of them go down 90%. Well, depending, if you put equal amounts of money into each of them, then yeah, if you put different amounts of money, it could differ. But really, it's that one that you want at the end of the day. And for me, a big one for me was ETH, of course, and a couple of things in DeFi summer. But I had a bunch of losers as well. I was not like the perfect investor that just bought into everything. No one's a perfect investor, right? So yeah, just a little bit of I guess kind of like wisdom there for you guys. And I think that you guys are on the right track. I see a lot of you talking about this in the Discord channel. You guys definitely are more switched on than the average user, that's for sure. And I really love that. I love that people are more switched on. I love that people are paying more attention. But anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. We've got about a minute left to go through the last thing I want to talk about, which was a tweet from Linda Shea here, who said, dynamic NFTs that visually incorporate people's on-chain activity / off-chain behavior is an underexplored area of incentive design. For example, your NFT starts looking a lot cooler the more active you become within a DAO. This would be very, very cool, right? Like an NFT that evolves based on your on-chain activity. And there's a few projects tackling this right now as well. You can see one that was kind of like linked here. There's a few others that were linked in kind of like the replies here as well, so you can go check them out. But yeah, I think this is cool because at the end of the day, like NFTs have a lot to do with kind of like gaming, I think, and a lot to do with I guess like social status. And if you want to kind of like level up in a game or level up your social status, you definitely want that to evolve as kind of like time goes on. So it'd be awesome to have an NFT on Sassel.eth that evolved with kind of like what I do in the ecosystem. And then it becomes very unique, right? Because it is basically uniquely specified to my own on-chain activity instead of just being kind of like generic and being the same as everyone else. But yeah, something to think about. But I'm going to end it there because I've gone over time here. But yeah, don't forget to check out the Daily Gwei merch. As I said, links in the YouTube description below for you to do so. But on that note, it's going to be it for today. So thank you everyone for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all next week. Thanks everyone.